My name is Brian Johnson. This is Chris Vanberg, and we hopefully will have some good information for you tonight. I have no doubt in that. So if you got any notebooks or pens or anything that you need, or phones, and you want to use your notes on your phone, I'm okay with that. That's what I do. Whatever works for you.
We highly encourage taking notes. We cover a lot of material at once. Today is definitely an overview, but every week we're going to cover different subjects about health. So we just want you to be, very mindful, keep track. Definitely keep your pen on your notes, because we cover a lot of information and I speak pretty fast. So we just want to make sure you get it all.
So this is our favorite saying.
Well, actually, it's you first.
Well, yes. So here's my pastime. I actually love cupcakes and pizza, and I have lost and gained 60 pounds on 2.5 different occasions. So I understand the love and the desire to eat, and I understand the other direction as well. And my whole focal point at this point in time in my life is all about balance. That's what we talk about. So,
Brian's passion is cupcakes and pizza, and my passion is burgers and cookies. And Brian and I both got into this, for very different reasons, but at the same time, we met about 11 years ago, and we identified that, this is a passion for both of us, and we really started on this road probably really 11 years ago.
Yes.
So let's talk about our current state. We're going to only spend a few minutes on this, but we just want everybody to be aware of, what's going on in our environment. Huge. Medical expenses have tripled in the last, 2 decades, okay? Our country spends more in healthcare than the next 25 countries put together. So of the $2.5 trillion we spend on healthcare annually, over $1 trillion goes to drugs and pharmaceuticals. That's more than any other country even spends on their healthcare altogether. And we have 1/3 the population of India and China, and yet we spend that much on healthcare. So it's good to be mindful, because we look at our national debt and we look at our expenses. Where's all that money going? And are we healthier? We actually live shorter in this country than we do than some people do in third world countries with no healthcare systems. Leading causes of death: heart disease, cancer, respiratory. People. Think of having people die because their lungs get filled up with water and they have respiratory conditions, lung cancers, that type of stuff. Stroke and cardiovascular disease, which is so similar just to heart disease. A lot of the same symptoms, a lot of the same problems. The thing is, with all 4 of these, they are all not only preventable, but they're controlled by environmental factors, which means they're almost all self-inflicted. So don't believe that the genetics lie. Don't believe in curses. Believe that you control your fate and you control your destiny.
They are reversible. That's exciting, right?
And another thing that's not even on here, there now, as of 2012, there's over 100,000 deaths per year from ill effects of pharmaceutical drugs.
And bad handwriting by doctors, believe it or not. And I have some doctor friends, and I love them dearly, but that is an actual fact I'm not just pulling out of my hat.
So more than 1/3 of the population is obese. 70% of the population is overweight. We have an epidemic now, even especially here in Austin, Texas, of children being obese, especially in low-income families where they have trouble affording, and they can go to McDonald's dollar menu cheaper than they go to the grocery store and be able to buy their groceries. Or they have food stamps, and that doesn't control the food that they buy, so they can buy, sodas and candy bars with food stamps, but they don't buy vegetables, and there's nobody there to educate them about, the differences or the health impacts.
It's a very vicious cycle.
I just want to spend a quick second on this. This is just some international statistics, basically global statistics on chemicals that go into the environment. From basically the Industrial Revolution, there's over 1 billion chemicals released onto the ground every year. So that doesn't make it into some sort of recycling or doesn't make it, this is 1 billion pounds of chemicals that make it into our waters, our streams, and our oceans. 200 million pounds are released in the surface and area waters. 2.5 toxic emissions. I mean, you think about all the cars, think about all the industrial plants, you think about all that emissions that nobody's controlling, and all that stuff gets released in the atmosphere. A lot of it gets rained right back down on top of us. Well, 5 trillion pounds globally, annually, of chemicals. It's kind of crazy. I mean, it's crazy, right? And you got to think about that's in the air we breathe, that's in the water we drink, it's in the food that we eat, it's in our everyday lives. So we have to be as healthy as possible to fight off these environmental toxins that are all around us every day. And that's what we're going to teach you how to do. So I'm going to ask a quick question. Those that have been with me before, don't answer. Okay? What's the first thing you'll die without? Anybody? Water. Water is actually the second thing you'll die without. Air. Good. Good. So, when we really started diving into health, we learned that what is the most important thing, you know? And what is the biggest change? So for a long time, we thought it was food. You know, we thought, well, food is the thing that we put into our body every single day. But then I started studying water, and we started understanding how important water was into our body. But then we really started to understand, what does water do? Water helps you deliver the food, helps you deliver the oxygen. You'll die in a few minutes, if you're lucky, without oxygen, right? So most people just breathe just enough to stay awake, you know? Or when you do exercise, obviously your body is telling you, oh my God, I need more, please, right? Or water, you just drink enough when you're quenching your thirst, or you're drinking a soda and you're thinking it's water, you know? Food, you can go a month without food. I'm going to talk about some other people that can go even longer, but you know, and then C is for consciousness, because our mind and our spirit have such a huge impact on our physical body. Okay? So we talk about air first.
Has anyone by a show of hands heard of or practiced Qigong?
No?
That's
What about yoga? Anybody done yoga?
There you go.
There you go. So both of these practices are more about breathing than they are the stretching or anything else, right? Yoga teaches you to breathe through pain, but it's conscious thinking about taking in more air every time and breathing through. Think about if you're about to do something very painful, what does somebody tell you to do? If you're going through a very hard time and you're very upset, what does somebody tell you to do? Why? Because it makes everything easier for you, right? It relieves pain, it relieves stress, it relieves anxiety. It is the most important thing we can put into our body.
In Eastern cultures, Qigong is one of the number one things for actually reversing illnesses because of the body's ability to saturate high amounts of oxygen, which will reverse the pH levels or the acidity levels of the body, which can completely reverse and boost the immune system.
Has anybody ever heard of a breatharian? So breatharians are monks, basically, and they reach a state of consciousness where their body no longer needs food. So they survive on air for over a year at a time.
Thoughts.
Sometimes longer. Once again, showing you the power of the mind over the body. And these are functioning people. It's not like they just lay around all day and just see if they can exist, right? So there's always forms of energy that exist outside of food. That makes sense? And not that we think that's healthy, okay? We're not advising trying to become a breatharian. What I'm telling you is that there's lots of things possible with the power of the mind and the spirit. Anybody believe that?
Yes.
Second most important thing you'll die without. Awesome. Listen, all of our water looks the same. We've taken it for granted because we've had it ever since we were little kids, right out of our faucet. We have the privilege that most people around the world don't even dream of. There are billions of people on this planet that still do not have access to fresh water. Okay? And there's some people that have to hike miles just to get water out of a dirty stream to bring it back to where they live and exist. So think about that as a blessing, but then don't take that blessing for granted. No life on this planet would exist without water. If you, biblically speaking, it is the source of all life. God is the living water. We are all exist from that, through that. There is nothing without it. That makes sense? So it is the single most important thing besides air that you can put in your body. And not all water is the same. I see a lot of bottled waters. You know, bottled waters look good. Maybe they taste okay because you get them and they, but that doesn't mean it's clean. Most of the time, it's just glorified tap water. The tap water that you drink today is not as good as the tap water that your parents had, right? Because we used to put a lot of money into water systems, but as budgets get tighter and they do different things, your water systems are nowhere near as quality as they used to be. Never mind that they have to pump a ridiculous amount of chemicals to get that water to your house uncontaminated. Would anybody drink a cup of chlorine? But you're drinking it in your tap water. You're getting it through your skin in your shower. Lye, has anybody heard about how dangerous lye is? Lye is added to your water to make the water acidic versus alkaline so that it doesn't rust the pipes and that it makes their pipes last longer. But lye is not good for us. Either is fluoride, which is a common misconception. And we pay for fluoride to be added to our waters because we thought it was good for our teeth 50 years ago. So these are all some very common misconceptions. We're going to spend really a whole class on water and hydration because the importance of it is so dramatically impacting to the way you feel every single day. Any comments?
Yes. Sodas. I used to be a huge fan, and when Chris and I were doing a fitness show probably about 3 years ago, our deal was to drink some Diet Cokes because they're calorie-free and sugar-free, and thought that we would actually get a boost from the caffeine in them. But it was very interesting as we experienced that it did nothing more than really bring us down more because of the acidity factor. To kind of give you an idea, Diet Coke is what was actually, the studies were actually done on, and the pH is about a 2.8. And so that's basically the same thing as what your stomach acid is, which is not good to drink. And you notice when you take a drink of it, how you get that's because it's burning your throat. I like it too. I have one once or twice a month, and I sip on it for a little bit. But that's so you understand that's what it's actually doing to you, and that's enough to actually rust or take the rust off of your motors. Coca-Cola is used by truck drivers to take the rust off of their motors, and you can actually put a piece of raw meat in some soda in a glass, and it will actually dissolve it all. And I'm not saying that to frighten you, but more to educate you. And if it's something that you are going to do, balance it out with cucumbers, green vegetables, so that you balance out the havoc that can cause on your system. And what happens is as you're drinking the sodas, the body will start to pull calcium from your bones, your joints, and your teeth to really neutralize that acidity, because the body is an amazing piece of machinery with what it's able to do. But at the same time, if you keep inducing those type of situations, the body will keep releasing the calcium into the bloodstream at such a high rate that your body can't get it out of the system or out of the capillaries and the veins fast enough, and it will actually cause the capillaries and the veins to calcify.
What's the number one killer in the United States? What is heart disease? It's clogged in the arteries. And it's not just that cholesterol, it's the cholesterol combination with calcium deposits. So there is no doubt, and I know Brian probably agrees, the worst thing you can possibly do to your body nutritionally is drink carbonated beverages. Doesn't matter if it's soda water, doesn't matter if it's tonic water, doesn't matter if it's diet, doesn't matter if it's regular. That much acidity poured in your body causes your parathyroid gland to release PTH, which causes all this calcium to leak in your bones. What is calcium coming from your bones? What does that lead to? Good. Does anybody know the difference between a cancer cell and a healthy cell? One singular difference, always. Cancer cell is acidic, a healthy cell is alkaline. So what do you think cancer can do when your body becomes highly acidic from drinking a lot of carbonated beverages? Multiply.
So to add to what he just said, the one thing that is actually absent from alkaline and acidic is the presence of oxygen. Oxygen is what you get from your greens. That's why they are green. That's why they have antioxidants versus the acidity. So that's what the difference is on there.
Almost every color in a fruit or a vegetable is a form of an antioxidant. So you got to think about that. They all vary in type, form, and function. But your food should be colorful. And I don't mean Skittles colorful. I mean fruits and vegetables colorful, because there's a big difference, okay?
On the bottom there, you see a brief list of things that actually are acidic: sugar, alcohol, dairy, carbonations, coffee. And once again, I still indulge in these things from time to time, but if you understand what you're doing and you can counteract it, this education will keep you out of your doctor's office other than getting checkups to see how you're doing. I still go to the doctor, my functional medicine doctor, but I haven't been to the doctor since I was 13. I'll be 36 in November. I don't go to a GP. I go to a person that checks all my blood levels, all my hormone levels, all my blood panels, and things of that nature. But other than that, I don't get sick. I'm not saying that braggingly, but just because I understand how to kind of combat it and kind of balance it out.
A healthy body is the only thing that can heal and fight virus and fight bacteria, right? So if you need to be healthy, you got to give your body what it needs, and that's what we teach.
Here's the fun part.
We're going to talk about a variety of foods in this class, but today we just want to highlight some of our favorite ones, so you have some take-home stuff for you today. Yeah?
And the beauty of this information that you'll see here is this is grocery store practicality, which is what we educate on. It's if you can't go to the grocery store and figure out what it is that you need from a fruit or a vegetable to help with the deficiency that you're having or the symptoms that you could be experiencing, then what's the point of taking the education? Because there's so much information out there. But I'll put my word on this, that God's information with the foods that he designed is going to far surpass any medication or anything that everything else that you could actually put into your system, hands down.
How many times do you see a bad drug attorney commercial now? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, this lawsuit. Did you ever have this drug? Did you ever have this drug? Did you ever have these symptoms? Here, join our lawsuit. This is going to be great, right? And now the doctors have to have all these malpractice lawsuits. I mean, it's, that's one of the reasons why our healthcare is so expensive. I would take a bad food over a bad drug any day. Wouldn't you? Awesome. So, asparagus.
Anybody like them?
Yeah.
Awesome, I like that. So asparagus is very interesting. It's actually your number one food containing the highest amount of glutathione. Has anybody heard of that term? Okay, show of hands. Awesome. Good. It's very mixed across the board with a lot of people who actually have not heard of it, but glutathione is arguably your number one friend when it comes to reversal and detoxification mechanism. Okay, it induces phase 2 detoxification, which is where every cell in your body has the ability to detoxify itself. Okay, let's see if I can word this properly to come across. Anybody, when you have asparagus, when you go to the restroom, I would say that the odor is probably a little bit different than normal. Agreed? Was that good enough? Did I pass? Okay. So what that's doing is that's detoxifying your kidney and your liver. And the reason why you're smelling that is because that's the toxicity that's pulling out of your system. Asparagus is a diuretic. Does that mean? Asparagus is a diuretic, meaning it will actually flush water out of your system. So when you eat asparagus, you want to make sure that you up your water intake to help with the process that you're smelling when you go to the restroom. Okay?
So let me talk a couple things.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me talk.
And liver.
So that's not the only thing. So you have to understand, glutathione is an enzyme that's naturally occurs in our body, but it also exists in food. Okay, it's an enzyme. Enzymes in our body are really our best protection against free radical damage. So everybody, no matter what, on a daily basis, eats or absorbs through breathing and exercise a ridiculous amount of free radicals. So free radicals are just basically toxins in the body that your body really wants to get rid of. Okay, and that's why we eat antioxidants. But you can't really eat enough antioxidants to ever fight and combat the amount of oxidations and free radicals that you take in on a daily basis. So it's about helping your body produce what it needs or eat what it needs to produce glutathione, which is one of the best free radical enzymes you can have on your body. Let me explain something. Almost every neurological disease spreads the same way, which is free radical damage destroying neurons in the brain. Okay? We only have one enzyme in our body that can fight free radical damage on the brain. That is glutathione. So it is considered to be a treatment. The problem is it's a very short-lived treatment. So they inject it in you. It only lives for a short period of time. You only have temporary results. But you could eat it on a regular basis to constantly fight off neurological damage. Okay? So one of the understandings is because it's one of the only enzymes that can pass the blood-brain barrier.
That's very important because The foods that we or God created are so much more bioavailable, meaning body ready. Your body understands, hey, this is asparagus. I know what to do with it. It's not a pill that's been broken down. It's where they take cofactors from plants or beans of certain things and put them into a pill format, which is not the same thing by any means, because there's thousands of other cofactors that are in fruits and vegetables that you're missing out by just singling out one item that you're trying to extract to produce an effect. So food is always going to be the best way to go.
And we're going to talk about the nutrients that we know, but one of the amazing things that's going on with food right now is there's studies going on every day where we learn more about foods that have been around forever. There are hundreds of phytonutrients in strawberries and apples and things that we don't even know what they do yet, but they're in the way God food created it, and we know that they have health benefits, right? So it's about understanding those, and everything we talk about is published studies behind it. And unfortunately, most of those studies aren't done in the United States because they can't patent. So they don't generally want to do any research studies
And they
on
don't
food.
produce any money.
A little side note about asparagus, it has to be very lightly cooked, if cooked at all. Glutathione is a very sensitive enzyme, so if you cook it or overcook it, you kill off most of the glutathione. So to really get the benefit out of an asparagus, you want to make sure that it's very lightly cooked. Yes?
Lightly steamed.
I do it lightly steamed.
Until it's green, very green, like the green will change.
Perfect. Not so much. Not so much.
Not so much on the grill.
Almost anything over the grill over an open flame is going to cause it to burn in some aspect, which is turns most food to carcinogens.
Yeah, it's called acrylamide. Has anybody ever experienced, I'm sure we all have, the burnt edges on meat or eggs? Okay, that combustion that happens from the flame in conjunction with the fats that could be in the meat or the vegetables, whatever the situation may be, is called acrylamide. It's 600 times more toxic than smoking cigarettes straight for a month. Like, they actually have the packaging on the McDonald's fries in California labeled caution, could contain acrylamide. So careful with what you're doing on your barbecuing. Just, keep it to a minimal. Don't eat the edges to where they're completely black. And if you do, then have some asparagus that's not blasted with something else so that you balance it out.
And I swear that burnt fat is the best part of a steak, isn't it?
That's why I said balance it out.
Life is balance. I'm not trying to ruin 4th of July barbecue for you. I'm just trying to say it shouldn't be an everyday food.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
That's a great question. We'll have to get back to you on that
I'll
one.
Google that and I'll get back to you.
Thank you for playing, though. Hold that thought. We'll Google it afterwards.
Avocado is definitely by far our number 2 food.
So, avocado, anybody's favorite?
I like you people. All of you.
So, this is your second highest source of glutathione. Avocados are awesome, and avocados will actually help you to burn body fat because of the type of the fat and how the body actually breaks it down. There are a lot of phytochemicals actually in the avocado that are amazing for lowering blood pressure, cholesterol, thinning out the blood, helping the body from a neurological perspective because of the fats that are actually in it. And the avocado seed is the most potent thing for reversing heart disease because of the ability to dissolve plaque out of the arteries. Yes. We use a 3-horsepower blender, and it'll turn that thing to fairy dust, and you can't taste it.
It's tasteless and it's perfect. I'll explain. The whole avocado by itself, without the seed, has about 3 grams of soluble fiber. Soluble is that fiber that actually absorbs into our bloodstream. So there's insoluble fiber, which is really good for your digestive system, and then there's soluble fiber, which absorbs into your bloodstream and helps clean out artery plaque and that stuff. So the avocado by itself, it's 20% fat by weight, has 150 milligrams of beta-cistrol, which really helps with your cholesterol, and then it's got that 3 grams of soluble fiber, which is really helping you clean out your arteries. Now, if you include the avocado seed, as in like a high horsepower blender, that seed has 12 grams of soluble fiber in it. So the whole avocado has about 15 grams of soluble fiber. Let me tell you how important that is. Cheerios has an endorsement from the American Heart Association because it has 1 gram of soluble fiber. 1. And you're taking it in with processed wheat and milk and a bunch of sugar. You're producing way more cholesterol than you're getting rid of by eating that thing, right? And so you're talking about 15 bowls of Cheerios. Where's that commercial at?
Yeah, and honestly, take it with a grain of salt. The FDA is, you get it? Okay.
Yeah.
So how about this? So we can be respectful of everyone's time because we're getting about 7:30ish. Write down your questions and we'll gladly answer them after so we can get everyone out on time.
Uh-oh, pairing with this device is unsuccessful.
Anybody? Anybody? Okay, while he's figuring that out, we'll talk about kiwis. Anybody have asthma or breathing disorders? Kiwis are very potent, 3 times higher than vitamin C than oranges. They are amazing at reversing asthma. I have a client that is 73 that actually has had asthma since she was 30, like debilitating. Moved to Arizona because of the climate change, had multiple professionals from all around the world trying to figure it out, almost died a couple of times because of the breathing problems. In 2 days of 2 kiwis each day, completely reversed her asthma. I've seen amazing things happen with that. That's something that I would keep around the house for all of the flus and the colds and all that fun stuff that should be going around, and have 1 or 2 of those a day, and you will be amazed at what you'll feel from a respiratory difference.
Did you skip a couple?
Yes, celery. I actually used to have high blood pressure. Celery will actually lower the blood pressure because of the patholides in it, which relaxes the blood vessels around the heart. It's amazing at replenishing electrolytes. It's always good to use in your smoothie. If you're on blood pressure medications, you need to be really careful because the celery will drop the blood pressure pretty dramatically. So use it sparingly and pay attention and check it. Go to Walgreens. My favorite pastime is checking my blood pressure when I go to H-E-B. I check it at the doctor's office and it's always high. So I keep my own notes on my phone. I was like, look, here's what it is. Here's all my notes. It's perfectly fine.
You know, a lot of people have white coat syndrome.
Yeah.
All of a sudden your blood pressure, you go near a doctor, it stresses me out. I don't know, my blood pressure gets higher. But the prescribed amount of celery, 6 stalks a day, you won't have a blood pressure problem anymore. You still probably need to regulate the rest of your diet, but 6 stalks a day. And celery is one of the cheapest foods. It's amazing.
Use it organic.
Yeah.
For sure, because they spray it heavily. Anybody a fan of coconut? Awesome, that's a good raise of hands. And coconut is awesome. I would invite you rather, how's that sound? I would invite you, if you use olive oil to cook with, to do some research, okay? Olive oil, when you heat it, will turn rancid. Coconut oil is a saturated fat, just like butter or ghee, and it won't turn rancid, so your body still understands what to do with it. Studies that were done on coconuts actually realized that it has very high thermogenic effects, is that they used to use it for feedstock for cows. And all of a sudden, when they started giving it to the cows, they realized the cows were losing weight, okay? Coconut is awesome. It's amazing for the immune system because of lauric acid. So mothers who are having children, coconut is awesome because it converts into monolaurin, which is one of the highest things that you can use for reversing viruses because it dissolves the fats around the membranes. Important.
Coconut water, or people ask us that all the time. You have to be careful with the source. A lot of times they're just running it through coconut. It's not actually coconut water, so but it is a good product. There's so many different ways to take in coconut. We're huge fans of coconut oil. If you need something that's antiviral, you can buy the concentrated form monolaurin over the counter. And one of the amazing things about coconut is what he was talking about is it's a nice saturated fat, but it's medium chain triglycerides, right? Which is a fat that our body turns to energy very, very quickly. So it's not those saturated fats that we're afraid of that are very hard to digest or process. The other very big important thing about it is he was talking about the smoking point. So one of the big things to do is if you're going to heat oil, you have to be very aware of what oil you're using, because most oils have a very low smoking point, especially if they're unsaturated fats like canola or vegetable oil. And if they have a very low smoking point, they turn into a carcinogen immediately. Okay, so that's why, like, if you buy fried foods in restaurants or something where they fry food, they have to use high quality oil, but the problem is they're usually using trans fat oil, which is even...
Comes in a brick.
Yeah, big old brick.
Solid like a
and
rock.
If it's solid when it's room temperature, think about what happens when it goes in your bloodstream and it becomes room temperature again. That makes sense? That's why they say avoid trans fats, because if it's solid at room temperature, it's also solid in your arteries. Yep. Make sense?
Coconut is extremely... That's the word I'm looking for. Well, let's retract that. I have been blessed to work with people that are in specific situations, viral situations, we'll leave it at that. And coconut will yield them to non-detectable levels. So you do the math on that when it comes to flu virus and whatever other kind of virus you can think of. It's extremely effective at making those go away to where you can't even pick them up under labs.
There are studies of people beating even things like HIV with coconut, monolaurin specifically.
Leave him to say it.
I don't know if we get our disclaimer, but we're not doctors. We're proud not to be doctors.
Yeah, we're not doctors, so you know.
Not that all doctors are bad, not that all Western medicine is bad, but there's a fine balance. You shouldn't be managing your health with drugs. Drugs serve a specific purpose, and they should never be there to just treat symptoms. If you're just treating a symptom, you're not solving the problem. Okay, food is there to solve the problem.
So walnuts, any fans? Walnuts are amazing. They have high amounts of arginine, which is a vasodilator. So blood pressure issues, sexuality issues, walnuts are amazing for those specific things. They're great for the brain because it's a fat. If you look at the walnut, what does it look like? Hey, it's good stuff.
It's funny how many foods look like the relative body part that they help. And so we're going to talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
You asked for somebody asked me about anti-inflammatory foods. Walnuts are the most anti-inflammatory nut.
ALA is the thing that you would be looking for, is alpha-linoleic acid, which is the number one thing for reducing, besides EPA on inflammatory.
Omega-3s, the most anti-inflammatory fatty acids. And so DHA, EPA, ALAs, those are all really the most anti-inflammatory substances you can find in nature.
Shiitake mushroom fans? Shiitakes are amazing. Mushrooms, so you know, penicillin is taken from the mycelium or mushroom families. Mushrooms are extremely important. They're some of the most potent things on the planet when you're talking reversal for all kinds of stuff. They have beta-glucans in them, which actually stimulates white blood cell production from the bone marrow, which is huge when you're talking reversing and fighting terminally ill diseases, or even symptoms rather.
You know, in Japan, they study mushrooms like we study antibiotics, okay? Because they have really discovered the power behind mushrooms. They spend billions of research a year on shiitake and
agaricus mushrooms. So here's an interesting trivia for you. When they go out hunting agaricus mushrooms, which is the very expensive mushrooms that they use for HIV/AIDS protocols, they have dogs and guards that go with them because of the potency and the cost to get the mushrooms. Yeah.
We'll give you some examples of mushrooms. The good mushrooms grow on trees. The bad mushrooms grow on other stuff, just so you're clear. The only exception to that is also the cordyceps mushroom. Has anybody ever heard of the cordyceps mushroom? The cordyceps mushroom was found in the Himalayan mountains. It grows on the back of an insect's head. Okay? It goes for $10,000 a kilogram, not even.
Yeah, they're expensive. I know in 1993, the Chinese women's sprinting teams were accused of doping because they beat 5 world records, and they were actually using cordyceps. So people with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, sexual dysfunction, cordyceps mushrooms are extremely potent, very inexpensive. You can get a bag of them for $26, and they make a dramatic difference on your energy levels and your breathing abilities,
And you can buy vegetarian-grown cordyceps mushrooms. That's how they grow them now. They don't have the exact same potency, but they're still really good. You know, one of the amazing studies that was done is, has anybody heard of natural killer cells? That's like your body's super defense. Like those are the part of your immune system that go out and kill everything, right? And they're called natural killer cells. Healthy people that took cordyceps mushrooms, the natural killer cells were boosted by like 150% in the blood. People with cancer, like things like leukemia, natural killer cells were boosted by 400%. So your body knew it needed more of them, and you gave it exactly what it needed to produce more.
Yeah, there's a supplement called AHCC. That is the number one supplement that's used in Eastern cultures because of its ability to reverse and to aid the immune system when someone is going through chemotherapy, no hair loss, no energy loss. I mean, it's amazing at what this stuff does to the body. And actually what AHCC is, it's a enzymatically prepared blend of maitake and shiitake mushrooms, which is extremely potent in pill form. It's like $30. It's not expensive, but it's extremely helpful.
So DHA fats, okay? Be real simple. DHA is generally, your body has ways to convert other fats into DHA in your body, but DHA is really the main place it grows is algae in the ocean. And then the plankton and the krill eat that, and then the fish eat those. And so that's why we get those omega-3s in good wild fish, not generally any farm-raised fish. So it's very important if you're thinking about doing a fish oil supplement, where do those fish come from? Okay, because and if it has 1,000 milligrams of fish oil, but it doesn't tell you how many of that's omega-3s, that's not a good fish oil. Okay, once again, we were talking about it's the most anti-inflammatory substance you can put in is those deep omega-3s. You know, one of the things that I always like to point out is, you know, your brain is about 60% made of fat, and about 50% of that is specifically like a DHA fat. So it's like the #1 supplement for kids with autism or anybody with brain damage or anybody suffering with neurological issues because it's how you make new brain cells, right? And one of the things I always want to point out is, you know, God puts, or just nature, whatever you want to call it, puts its best nutrients in replication, right? So there's so many amazing nutrients in the seeds, in the cores of the plants, or even in humans. So male sperm has DHA in it. Why? Because if it inseminates an egg, the very first thing it needs to create is what? A brain cell. So what does it need? DHA.
Yeah, any issues with memory function, short-term, long-term cognitive function? Okay, so to kind of give you an idea, I haven't studied this stuff in about a year, and I had about 4,000 milligrams of DHA today, and it seems to be rattling off pretty smooth so far. But I have clients that I work with that have neurological disorders that are, some would say, pretty severe, and I can tell you between DHA and acetyl L-carnitine, night and day difference in their cognitive and functioning speech abilities, cognitive memory function, short-term, long-term. This is something that I would write down and I would take at least 2,000 milligrams a day and see how you feel on it personally, because it's something that makes amazing differences on ADD, ADHD, anything you're talking about neurological function. This is definitely something that I would add to your repertoire. And I would, the one that Chris and I use, you're welcome to use what you want. I've experienced all of them, and this is what I think, and he would agree with me. There's a little bottle called Nordic Naturals. It's about $36. A teaspoon of it has got about 1,000 milligrams of DHA and 1,000 milligrams of EPA. The numbers may be a little bit higher than that, but that's the best one that I've experienced the most benefits off of.
And they even have a concentrated version if you want to spend more money.
That is the concentrated version. Sprouts or Natural Grocers, or you can get it at
you
Whole
can get it at Whole
Foods.
Foods, but you know that's
Whole Paycheck.
there you
whichever
go.
prefer.
Exactly.
So on to the beet.
Beets is an amazing food.
Yes, that's probably arguably one of your top ones. So anybody who has heart issues, when you go to the doctor, they can tell how your heart's functioning by your homocysteine levels in your blood. Beet lowers homocysteine due to the betaine. It actually cleanses the blood. It has the ability to uptake oxygen up to 400%. And the first thing when you're fighting any type of symptom, we'll say, you want to cleanse your blood, beet is the way to go. You want to tell them about the story?
Sure. So first I'll tell you, you know, remember how we talked about foods replicating what they're good for? You know, the beet could kind of look like a heart. Two, it's got that deep red color. What gives it that deep red color is what they call betaine. And betaine is the closest thing to hemoglobin in nature, so it helps us produce fresh red blood cells, detoxify our blood. And you think about it, what do I need? Right there. And a beet should be something on daily, but it's also one of those things that you really shouldn't cook.
It tastes great. You want to add some mint, some ginger, some type of lime or lemon, depending upon what your taste is. Don't cook it, because if you have kidney stones, the oxalic acid in the beet will definitely impair that. I do it raw, but like I said,
I blend it.
Use it sparingly.
And I don't think
It's
it tastes
potent.
good. I don't know what he's talking about.
I like the yellow beets and the red ones kind of mixed. It kind of knocks. There you go, Pastor Randy. I see you over there.
One of the stories that we just want to tell you real quick is, you know, one of the people that we learn from, right? And you know, we've been studying with people for the last 8 years. But one of the people that we've learned from, he had a client that came in, and she had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She had a tumor basically the size of a watermelon. So her whole insides had been blown out. I think it was stage 5. She was told she had about 30 days to live and sent home. They were done. So he said, I can't help you. You know, it's too, you know, I can't help you. And she's like, I'm not leaving here until you tell me what I can do. And he goes, the only thing I think you can do is 6 pounds of beets a day raw.
Ooh.
That's tough. I'll tell you that.
That's real tough.
I eat a quarter of a little tiny beet, and I think that's tough. 6 pounds a day. She came back 30 days later. The tumor was half the size.
And remember, the beet cleanses the blood. If you cleanse the blood, the body will follow. That's the most important thing. The beet is just like the chlorophyll in the green water, as it immediately turns the hemoglobin, oxygen, red blood cells in your body, which will help to reverse any type of malfunctions.
3 months later, she was cancer-free. But
Awesome.
she deserved it for eating 6 pounds of beets a day.
Yeah,
That's
for
all.
sure. She's a better woman than I.
Turmeric. You know, one of the things I always want to talk about is, in America, we don't use enough spice. You know, there's so many powerful healing spices, okay? And we don't use enough of them. The more foods we can mix into our diet, generally speaking, that's a benefit. You know, we have 30 times the prostate cancer of people in India. 30 times the amount. One of the reasons that they think that attributed to is because they use such great spicy foods. Think about how much curry. They eat curry everything. Now, I think they do it a little much because, you know, sometimes they kind of smell.
Their
I'm not
environmental
going to hold it against them.
Yeah,
But
their environmental toxicity, as far as what
That's
their
true.
environment puts out, is way higher than
pollution
ours.
is way higher there. They have 9 times as many people in the same amount of square miles as we do in the United States, right? So, you know, you got to think about that. That's an issue. And yet they're surprisingly healthy compared to us. And one of the things is think about, they eat curry everything, which is one of their main spices in curry is turmeric.
Or curcumin, which is the yellow pigment. For pain issues, ginger and turmeric are some of your top 2 COX-2 inhibitors, which is what Advil and Aleve do on their own.
If anybody has chronic pain, you can Google COX-2 inhibiting foods. We can help you with that. There are so many foods that give you the same powerful effects as pain medications without side effects.
Anybody heard of Manuka honey? New Zealand, it comes from the Manuka flower, which is huge. It has the ability to kill MRSA. Anybody heard of that? MRSA kills more people than HIV does each year. It also helps to kill H. pylori, which is a stomach bacteria that does have issues when it gets into the heart. They can tell that bacteria is present, and it has the ability to knock that out. It's great for wound ointment, way better than Neosporin. If you have a cut or something, you can take Manuka honey and rub it on it, and if you lick it, it even tastes good.
How many of you had any of you had ulcers, stomach ulcers? You know, they've now they say, because ulcers are very hard to detect and treat, that actually 80% of the time it's actually that H. pylori bacteria that is causing the ulcer. So that's why people deal with it chronically for so long, is because they don't eat what kills the bacteria, so therefore the ulcers keep reappearing.
Yeah, this is off the chart, but mastic gum is one of the top ones for stomach ulcers. It actually comes from the Chios tree in Greece that is specifically will knock it out like in half a bottle or less if somebody has stomach ulcers. Charcoal. Health food store. It's about 18 bucks a jar. Don't eat it heavy-handed.
They have little rating systems on there, you know.
EMF.
Yeah, there's certain levels that are edible, and then there's even ones that are beyond edible.
Medicinal.
For screen, you know, skin, MRSA, that type of stuff. Skin issues.
Charcoal. Anybody knows when you have food poisoning or you swallow something with poison, they take you to the hospital and they pump you full of charcoal. There's a French professor that actually did this in class. He downed a lethal dose of strychnine, which is not recommended, and then followed it with some charcoal, no issues. Charcoal is something I would recommend to have at your house on call when you have something, either whether it's stomach issues, food poisoning, whatever. Charcoal makes a significant difference. You can even put it on topically. Eastern medicine cultures will use it topically for brown recluse spider bites, venom issues, and it will completely pull the toxins out of the body. Yes, ma'am. Capsule, or you can buy it into powder format if you need to go take a bath in it or something like that.
Yeah, if you wanted a whole bag, you can buy and buy the bag, but that's hard.
Capsule format's usually good unless you plan on being
has
crazy.
anybody ever been in Boy Scouts? You know, they taught us that when I was a kid, that if you were starving in nature, you could burn wood and then eat the charcoal, and you not only get nutrients out of it, but it helps you fight toxins, especially if you've been drinking water that wasn't purified. The other thing is there's also a product that's called diatomaceous earth, or food-grade diatomaceous earth, which works the exact same way as charcoal. Basically, they're very, very porous, and when you eat it or digest it, it sucks the toxins into the holes. So basically, almost everything bad, even bad bacteria and viruses and things like that, gets sucked in, and then you process them out.
And the beauty of it is that the wisdom of this information that God puts in these is that it doesn't take your good nutrients out of your intestines, which is pretty amazing. So next one, cilantro. Cilantro is your number one heavy metal chelator. Any people with neurological issues or been in areas where there's a lot of industrial activity,
Eat a lot of
cilantro is very important. But here's the deal. You want to pair cilantro with the asparagus, because the last thing you want to do is eat cilantro and chelate all these metals and toxins out of the body into the bloodstream and not have a way to shuttle them out, which is what the asparagus and the avocado will do from the phase 2 detoxification.
I don't care who you are, you probably have heavy metals. It doesn't matter. Like, our environment is loaded with them. You know, you think about all the, aluminum. How many of you use deodorant? Most of that is aluminum made, right? And so you're absorbing it through your pores.
Straight into your lymphatic system. Ladies,
that's a heavy
there's a lot
metal.
of,
Yeah, that's a heavy metal. So if you eat deep sea fish on any regular basis, so find ways to get raw cilantro, which is obviously a potent taste, so figure it out, and add it regularly into your diet, because I assure you, you will get benefit out of it.
Mix it with blackberries or strawberries is what I do. There's ways to disguise it, but it's definitely something that I would add to your daily, weekly intake of whatever it is you're doing. So garlic. How many are fans? I get kicked out of my house for eating it. I can't help it.
Yeah, but how often do you eat it raw?
Yeah. Good.
Like,
it's anti-everything. Anti-people, antimicrobial, antifungal, anti-whatever. It's just like, it's up there with the beet. So if you're talking about fighting any type of illnesses, or you've been around people with the flu and whatever else, that's something you could definitely use. And I make pesto out of it with olive oil, basil leaves. You can spice it up with certain things to knock the edge of it off. But if you're getting serious and you think you're about to acquire something, so to speak, have a couple of raw cloves and just sleep in the spare bedroom.
There are so many.
Or put it on your feet.
There are so many amazing home remedies to fight off viruses, flus, and bacteria just with garlic, right? So it's one of those powerful antiviral, antibacterial, anti-cancer substances we have. And it's a powerful, powerful tool. And it's so cheap. Conscious, or consciousness, or conscious language, all of which we're going to cover. Who believes that there's power in words? That's right. And there is. And we want to teach you how you speak, because that affects your consciousness, how you think, and how you really present not only yourself, but you receive information, because that has such a huge impact on our physical, mental, spiritual health. Think about this. There's one thing that is basically, I'll take that back. There's two things that's related to basically every single disease in the body. Anybody tell me what those two things are? Stress is one. Obviously, I got it on the board. What's the other one? I know you know what it is. That's right, inflammation. Stress and inflammation are the two things that are basically related to every single disease. So eating an anti-inflammatory diet, and then B, managing your stress. Where does stress come from? I mean, I got them on the board. It can't be too hard. Right? Listen, we all have emotions. And sometimes we lose control of those emotions. Or sometimes we don't know how to deal with those emotions. Fear, anxiety, shame, guilt, this consciousness, if you believe biblically that we ate from the knowledge of the good, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, we all have our versions of right and wrong, which means we all do things that we think are right and wrong, and we have guilt and shame and fear and lack of faith from these things. And they affect. And I'll be honest, Brian and I used to believe that you were a product of your environment, which basically meant 90% of everything was nutrition. We don't believe that anymore. Now because I can fix your nutrition, sometimes people still don't get better, and that's because they're hanging on to stuff emotionally. Yeah,
and we've got about 10 minutes. I'm going to give you a personal example, and this may be able to help you kind of drive home this experience, because I didn't realize this, but one of my coaches was doing iridology on my eyes, which means they can look at it and they can tell everything. Emotional, spiritual, your thought processes, your relationships with others, broken bones in your hand, issues in your body. I'm talking, if you don't want somebody to find out something, don't go find somebody who's really good at iridology, because they'll know, okay? So long story short, I craved sweets. Obviously, you saw my slide up there for quite some time. And I honestly was like, what is the deal? I'm a professional. Why can I not get to this next level that I'm trying to reach and have all of these cupcakes that I want to eat? And it's not just one, it's 4, 6, 10 of them, okay? So this is what my brain's thinking. So long story short, there were some things that were going on in my life that I didn't understand that I was chewing on subconsciously, and I was trying to figure it out here. When my coach brought something to my attention, immediately brought me to tears, because I knew he hit the spot, exactly what it was, but I didn't know that that's what was manifesting on a subconscious level. And what it was a level of fear of some things that I was going on with my life at the time for probably a good 7 or 8 years that I had no idea I was consciously chewing on, and that it basically made an indentation on my subconscious record that was affecting why I was craving sweets. It was because of my fear issue that was subconscious that I had no idea that I was thinking from here. So there's a lot of things that I understand now why things happen, that it's not necessarily from nutrition. And like Chris said, I used to be the one who said, you know what, your nutrition is 95% of it. But after understanding what I do now, I'm like, that's 50%. Because if your subconscious is in duality with your conscious, there's going to be reasons and things that pop up that will self-sabotage you that you have no idea why they're coming about, and more or less what to do to fix it. As soon as that was brought to my attention, I was able to dissolve it and say it's okay, rather than making it a right or a wrong, and love it regardless of what it was, to bring it into a position to where I could deal with it and move forward. And I'll be honest with you, I dropped 4 pounds in 2 days, just no issue. No sweet cravings, no nothing.
We are all broken people, right? All of us. And so we need to be aware of that brokenness. We need to find, understand, forgive, love our issues, and be okay with them. And when we find that peace, life is so much easier. And that has such a huge, profound health impact. And how many of our doctors are studying that?
I mean, it was an awareness shift when I just was brought to the awareness of saying that it doesn't have to be wrong or right, because when I get into a wrong or right, it's an automatic subconscious judgment process that leads me on a this, and this, when I'm like, hold on, why am I in this position first off when I should be over here? So when we took the charge off of it and made it okay, no matter what I was experiencing from a feeling world, my body immediately changed the state to where I could relax, understand what it was, and move forward into a love. Because honestly, what I'm projecting is usually what I'm feeling myself onto someone else, which is the problem in the first place. So one thing that I would say, if you learn anything today, take the charge off of your feelings and things that you're experiencing, and tell yourself that it's okay. If you're experiencing fear, anxiety, it's okay. Love it back into a position where you can be out of duality with it, to allow your body to understand that it's okay and give you the ability to move forward. Because if not, it's going to subconsciously set, and you're going to start dealing with things, and it's going to create a perpetual self-sabotage type of situation with thought processes, and you're going to have no idea where these things are coming from, and it's going to get buried down there further and further until you run into somebody who looks at your eyes and said, here's your deal. So
it's about giving yourself a little hug. You see the little hug?
Yeah.
So I really think that's all we have. We thank you very much. We love you guys. We're excited about the next couple of weeks to teach you plenty of stuff more, and we're going to go very deep into a lot of different subjects, and this is just a high level, so I hope you enjoyed it.
You did good.